Hey guys, quick question before we start. Is water wet? Like, I keep seeing that on Facebook and stuff, and is it wet or not? You know, when you see something in the water, you just say it's swimming, but when it's out of the water, you say it's wet. But water's kind of like both, in a way. So is it wet or not? Personally, I don't really think so. I guess it's a weird question. I don't know. I just thought of asking and seeing what someone else might say, but whatever. All right, so hey guys, it's Wednesday, and we are still continuing reading The Search for the Phoenix Gem and In-Questigation with Dahlia, one of my new fave characters. I am enjoying this book so far. Monday's video went a little long. Really long, because I realized I had 10 minutes of me just reviewing what I thought. And I think I'll just save my reviews for the end after we're done, so that you guys don't have to wait and listen to what I'm trying to say about the book beforehand. So I think I'll be saving what I think until after I'm done reading the chapters, and then, you know, I'll give what I think and what I feel my perspective is on this book and so forth. So yeah, so today we're going to be reading chapters 11, 12, and 13. And last we had read, Dahlia was getting a lot of interviews done. She talked to one of the sign twirler at Berkshire, who happened to be the Manticore in their getup. And after she had that conversation, she heard more about she ended up breaking down, like, her car the tire in her car blew out on the highway or the expressway, and officers Gore and, what was her name again? Gore and, I'm not sure, I can't remember what the other one's name is. I'll look for it right now. But the two police officers that she had spoken to before ended up seeing her on the highway, so they helped her fix her car. And it turns out she hears about a theft that happened at the pawn shop where the Manticore got the Curse Crusher back from, where she bought it. Instead of paying the $10,000 that the pawn shop lady was trying to gouge out of them, I think her name was Grecklin. They still paid her, but they paid her the original amount she agreed for. So technically it was stealing, but at the same time it wasn't, because they still paid her. But, you know, that's a whole thing on its own. But yeah, so she called the police, and the report goes in as Dahlia is next to the police officers, and she knows the police aren't going to get there first because they're going to stop for coffee. So she goes herself so she can talk to Grecklin and interview and see why they needed the Curse Crusher in the first place, what it actually is, and, you know, just get more information about the story. So last we saw, she was in the shop, the pawn shop, and she realizes that the officers are just about to walk in. It says, hello, said Officer Spectre, looking around the shop. We're here about the complaint of a stolen sword. So Dahlia is already, like, about to freak out, I'm assuming, because she sees Gore and Spectre coming in. So we're going to see her reaction of them coming in, if she can get away before they see her, and if she can put what she learned to use. So hopefully she does. This is getting really interesting. I'm really excited about this book. Right, so we're on chapter 11. I apologize for it being backwards and the background noise, as always. Alright, so chapter 11. Before she could be spotted by the police officers, Dahlia managed to slip out of the back door of the pawn shop. She ducked low, avoiding the windows, and went around to the front, where her minivan was waiting. She was surprised the police hadn't spotted it, then realized that a truck had pulled up in front of her van, blocking it from view. She was avoiding the police, but she wasn't exactly sure why she was doing it. It wasn't like she had done anything wrong. Still, she didn't want to have to explain to Officer Gore and Spectre what she was doing at the pawn shop, and how she had gotten there before they had. She opened the door to the minivan and started it up, hoping the noise wouldn't draw the attention of the officers. The pawn shop door didn't open, so Dahlia figured she was safe. She drove off, letting out a sigh of relief. Based on what she learned from Grecklin, the Manticore and Laurel were definitely working together. Why did the Manticore need the Curse Crusher, though? Had she known about the dragon in advance? If so, was there a chance that this was the Manticore's fault and the boys were just in the wrong place at the wrong time? Either way, there had to be a connection somewhere. With each interview, Dahlia felt like she was getting more pieces of the puzzle, but she had no idea how those pieces fit together or what image they made. And time was running out. It was already noon. If Dahlia was going to file her story in the morning, she was going to have to get to the Manticore's tavern and fast. The minivan seemed to be on her side, as it only gave her one hiccup. The gas light turned on just a mile away from the tavern. Isn't that what happened to Barney and Ian? It's pretty funny. She made a mental note to return the van to her mom with the full tank. She didn't want her mom to have any reason to get upset about the van, but she didn't have time to worry about that now. She pulled up to the Manticore's tavern and was surprised by how much of the building still remained. Sure, you could tell there had been a fire, but the place looked like it could be rebuilt. It was cordoned off by yellow police tape. The facade of the building had burned away, and the front of the tavern was still smoldering. The ground was wet, indicative of the water the firefighters had used to put out the flames. The place looked completely deserted, which of course made sense. Why would anyone come to a closed, fire-damaged tavern? So Dahlia's heart sank. She had placed a lot of hope on the Manticore's tavern, thinking maybe it would reveal some secret that would help her unlock and solve this mystery. But it looked like it was going to be a bust. She opened the door of the minivan and shut it behind her, then walked through some puddles on the ground toward the front of the tavern. Then she heard it, a rustling sound, like someone was looking for something, digging, shifting debris. Lifting the yellow tape, Dahlia ducked under. She looked around. The sound was coming from inside the front door. She went inside. It was dark, so she used a flashlight on her phone to light the way. Oh, Faldar's horn! Dahlia jumped at the sound of the roar and fell back, hitting the ground. She dropped the phone and the flashlight turned off. What are you doing here? Said a booming voice. What am I doing here? Dahlia asked. What are you doing here? I own the place, the voice said, and through the darkness, Dahlia saw the Manticore standing before her. You're the Manticore, Dahlia exclaimed, stating the obvious. She was much larger than Dahlia had realized, but she could see that where the Manticore had softened over the years. She wasn't quite the hulking, muscular warrior that was depicted in the soot-stained portrait on the wall. But Dahlia now understood why Shrub Rosehammer had been in such awe of the Manticore. The relics that survived the fire displayed her legendary battles and conquests, and after what she had witnessed the day before, Dahlia definitely wouldn't want to cross paths with the Manticore in battle. It wouldn't be the Manticore's tavern without the Manticore, the beast said. And you are? Dahlia, I'm a reporter for the Fortnightly Dragon. The Manticore looked down at Dahlia, then extended her hand. Dahlia took it and stood up. Thanks, I didn't mean to scare you. Same here, the Manticore said. So you're a reporter, huh? What are you here to report on? I'm doing a story on the big battle that took place at the high school yesterday. Specifically, the two boys, Ian and Barley Lightfoot. They've been taken into police custody. And... Police custody? The Manticore said. Dahlia, I think you might have that a little I know what I saw, Dahlia protested. Now I figure if I can piece together what happened and tell their story, I might be able to help them. Will you help me do that? I don't know, the Manticore said, turning her attention to the smoke-damaged restaurant. I've got a lot of work to do if I'm going to reopen the business anytime soon. Maybe come back tomorrow? Tomorrow will be too late, Dahlia exclaimed. I have to turn in my story by morning, and who knows what will happen to Ian and Barley by then. The Manticore sighed with a heave of her shoulders and stared at Dahlia. I bet you won't leave until you get your story, will you? A good reporter wouldn't. And I'm gonna be one of the best, maybe even editor-in-chief. All right then, the Manticore said, and Dahlia thought she could see the faintest trace of a smile. Fire away. What do you want to know? Dahlia dug into her pocket, pulling out her notepad and pencil. How did you meet Ian and Barley? Simple. The two of them came to my tavern looking for a map. A map? A map of what? A map that would show them the location of a phoenix gem. What's a phoenix gem? Dahlia asked. Reporters ask a lot of questions, huh? The Manticore said. A phoenix gem is what wizards call an assist element. It's something that's used in spell casting. powerful spellcasting. Spellcasting. Like, as in magic? Sedalia asked. Like magic, the Manticore said. In fact, I hadn't seen magic like that in centuries. It really took me back. She smiled as she reminisced about the old days. Sedalia was confused. Centuries? How old are you? The Manticore chuckled. A lady never reveals her age. The old wings may not work as well as they used to, but I think I did pretty well in that battle. Maybe I'll sign up for a gym membership. Nothing like a good old-fashioned combat training to get back into shape. Sorry, I didn't mean to be rude, said Sedalia. I guess I don't know much about you, but there are some people I've run into who seem to idolize you. Why is that? Well, not to toot my own horn, but I was one of the most famous warriors in history. My tavern was a place where warriors, rogues, and wizards all alike would gather to risk life and limb for the mere taste of excitement. I was dangerous and wild. No one could tame me. Actually, I have young Ian Lightfoot to thank for reminding me of that. What do you mean? Asked Sedalia. I didn't want to give the boys a map at first. I had a lot of responsibilities, and I wasn't about to risk my tavern for anything. But Ian pointed out that risk and adventure used to be my whole life. I realized I didn't even recognize myself anymore. I was Corey, not the Manticore. And so I may have overreacted just a little and burned my tavern on the road to self-discovery. All of a sudden, I couldn't stand seeing all of those reminders of how I was sold out. I guess I had to light a literal fire under myself to get things going again. So what happened after the fire? Did you give the map to Ian and Barley? Well, the real map, the one they wanted, was destroyed in the fire. But I told them that my children's menu is based on the real thing. Children's menu, Sedalia said. The Manticore walked to a charred wooden counter and reached over it. She pulled out a stack of papers, peeled one off the top, and handed it to Sedalia. It was wet, stained black around the edges with soot and ash. Sedalia was scribbling as fast as she could. So why did Ian and Barley need a map, and what did they want with a phoenix gem? The Manticore didn't say anything for a second. She stayed quiet and looked at the paper menu in Sedalia's hands. I think that's really for the boys to say. You need to ask them directly. But let's just say that it's something deeply personal, and perhaps the best reason ever to undertake such a dangerous quest. A dangerous quest? Sedalia asked. Is that what they were on? A quest? Like that game, Quest of Yore? It's no game, the Manticore said. No, it's far more real than that. Tooth of Sadar. Is that the time? I need to go. The Manticore headed to the door. Look, you'll just have to ask them yourself, okay? Anyone who takes the path of peril instead of the easy way deserves my respect. It's a true judge of character. Only those with strong hearts could have survived that and vanquished a dragon all in the same day. Path of peril? Sedalia asked. For the first time since she started working on the story, Sedalia wasn't sure if it was something she should really pursue. A place called the Path of Peril didn't seem like something to trifle with. A voice in her head was screaming at her, saying, "Leave the story alone, Sal." She knew what it was. It was fear. Swallowing hard, Sedalia swore she wouldn't back down. She'd come this far. She had to follow the story all the way to the end, no matter what. She dashed after the Manticore and was about to ask another question. Suddenly, the Manticore raised her hands as if to stop Sedalia. Sorry, I don't quest and tale. I gotta get going. This tavern won't get up and running again on its own. She unfurled her massive wings, ready to take off. Wait, Sedalia called out. Please, one more question. The Manticore turned around and looked at her. One more, but only because I sense you have a good heart. And you kind of remind me of myself. Sedalia smiled. You're a accomplice at the pawn shop, the woman at the school, the one who was riding on your back with the curse crusher sword. Who was that? I think you already know, the Manticore said. But just so it's official, that was Ian and Barley's mom, Laurel. With that, the Manticore turned and took off into the sky. Oh, guys, do you think she's going to go on this whole adventure like they did? That's going to be really interesting. So that's the end of chapter 11. So now we're on chapter 12. Ooh, this is exciting. So Dahlia sat in the minivan, trying to decide her next step. Should she risk going to the Path of Peril? If she didn't go, what would her next lead be? And even if she decided to go to the Path of Peril, her map wasn't exactly useful. All it featured was a few activities for kids to figure out while they were waiting for their meal. How was this based on the Manticore's real map? Maybe I can ask someone how to get to the Path of Peril, so Dahlia thought. It can't be that hard to find, right? If Ian and Barley really used the same menu to find a Phoenix Gem, then maybe she could follow it to find out more about the weird events that had occurred. The decision was obvious. Looks like I'm off to the Path of Peril, she said aloud, instantly realizing that it sounded dangerous and maybe it wasn't such a great idea, but she was going to do it anyway. She glanced at the children's menu. She worked out one of the activities, which gave her the answer, Raven's Point. So Dahlia knew Raven's Point was a mountain off one of the major expressways. She realized Ian and Barley must have taken the Path of Peril to Raven's Point. But why would the boys take some ancient and terrifying sounding road instead of taking the paved and non-perilous expressway? It had to have been something Crest related, some kind of knowledge that she didn't have. She would need to figure out how to get to that path. You know what would be so cool, guys? I just want to share this real quick. If she ends up going on this adventure with, I think his name was like Garge, Ian's friend, and Barley's other friend. Wouldn't that be cool? I think that'd be pretty cool. But first, she needed to sort out the gaslight situation. She searched for and then stopped at the nearest gas station called Swamp Gas. She pulled up to the pump and got out of the minivan, then removed the cap from the gas tank. While she waited for it to fill, she took out the notepad from her pocket and removed the children's menu, unfolding it. So Dahlia looked at Raven's Point. She knew a little about ravens. Of course, she knew that they were birds, but she also knew that they were considered something of an ill omen. That didn't make her feel especially great, but she was willing to do what she needed to get the story. The gas done pumping, so Dahlia folded the menu and stuck it back into her notepad. She looked over the gas station store. That's when she saw them. Sprites. They were no bigger than water bottles, but they were scarier and tougher than beings even 4 times their size. Wearing leather jackets, they looked to be part of a motorcycle club, squinting. So Dahlia saw the words, Pixie Dusters, emblazoned on the jackets. Oh, guys, she's gonna meet the Pixie Dusters. As she walked into the store to buy some snacks, she couldn't help overhearing the Sprites' conversation. They were talking about motorcycles, but one of them said something strange. Just think, if we hadn't met those two, we'd still be driving everywhere forever. It wasn't much, just a simple sentence tossed out quickly, but it stuck in Sedalia's mind, and she was sure that it had something to do with Ian and Barley. She went over to the counter. A clerk stood behind it. He looked up at Sedalia and sighed. Don't mess anything up. I just spent an hour cleaning up the joint. I wasn't going to, Sedalia said. I just wanted to buy something. Well, what are you buying? The clerk asked impatiently. Sedalia was still watching the Sprites. One of them had taken interest in her minivan and was walking around it now. I'll take some sparkle sticks. She reached down into a cardboard box on a shelf under the checkout and put a bunch of the brightly colored candies on the counter. Just like those pixie dusters, the clerk said, mumbling. Don't even have motorcycles no more. They just come in here for the sparkle sticks. That'll be 3 even. Sedalia paid, grabbed the candy, and ran outside. She approached the Sprite, inspecting her minivan. What are you staring at? The Sprite demanded. I could ask you the same question, said Sedalia, sounding braver than she felt. That's my minivan. Well, my mom's minivan. I usually ride a scooter, but it sort of died on me yesterday. I'm gonna save up and get a new one, though. Maybe even a motorcycle one day, like you guys. You ride too, huh? Sweet, the Sprite said, kicking the left rear tire. The tire wobbled. Yeah, I wouldn't do that, Sedalia winced. That's a spare, basically held on with invisible tape and wishes. That's funny. The Sprite smirked. Ha! That's pretty funny, Scoots. Oh, she called her Scoots. That's pretty funny, Scoots. My name is Dewdrop. My name is Sedalia. I'm a reporter for the Fortnightly Dragon. Nah, I like Scoots better. Okay, said Sedalia, not trying to push the issue. I'm actually out here following a story. I was wondering, can I ask you and your friends a few questions? Dewdrop's eyes narrowed. I don't trust reporters. But you are a fellow writer and all. I brought these, Sedalia said, showing Dewdrop the sparkle sticks. That sold it. Dewdrop took the sparkle sticks from Sedalia's hands. We're all yours, Scoots. What you want to know? I heard one of your friends over there say something about you learning how to fly? Is that right? Dewdrop's eyes darted over to the other sprites standing by the door. She shot one of them a look that said, "I told you to stop flapping your big mouth." Dewdrop. Yeah, we'll see. It's like this. We were here at the gas station yesterday when a few guys stopped by. One big elf, one small elf, and another weirdo wearing sunglasses who had major attitude. And shades. He knocked over our bikes. Now, as a fellow rider, I don't have to tell you that no one touches your bikes. No one. If I ever get my hands on that guy... So Dahlia tried to be sympathetic. Yikes. No, who would do that? Shades did that, Dewdrop replied. Anyway, the situation was not looking good for those three, as far as living was concerned, when Tiny Elf said we were lazy and started insulting our ancestors. Stuff like that. I could have taken him, but the big elf picked up Tiny and carried him away. So Dahlia paused. Wait, what? One of the elves carried the other one away? And why are you calling him Tiny? No offense to you or anything, but elves are my size. Dewdrop looked her up and down. Yeah, the big one was around your size, but Tiny was my height. Don't ask me why he was so small. So Dahlia didn't know how to respond. It didn't make sense. We might come back to that, but it sounds like things got pretty heated. What happened after your bikes got knocked over? We chased after the three of them on our motorcycles. They were driving a car? Dahlia asked. Van. One of the other sprites chimed in. Oh, that's Guinevere. What did it look like? Dahlia asked. Color? Did it have any identifying marks? It was purple, Dewdrop said, and there was a Pegasus painted on the side. That matches the van I saw when Barley picked up Ian from school, Dahlia thought, and it matches Officer Gore's description. Anyway, we chased them down the highway for a few miles, but they managed to escape. That was pretty annoying. I hate when people do that, Dewdrop said, her lip curling into a sneer. Still, if it hadn't been for them, we never would have known that we could still fly. If you can fly, what are you doing at a gas station? Got a lot of questions, don't you, Scoots? We need flying snacks, of course. Now that we're exercising these babies, we need more energy. Dewdrop fluttered her wings for emphasis. Dahlia smiled, taking notes. Then stopped. Something was bothering her. So there were 3 people last night. Yeah, 3, Dewdrop said. Sorry. The big one, the small one, and Shades. What can you tell me about Shades? Was he young? Old? Was he an elf too? That wise guy, Dewdrop grumbled. He must be their leader. He was all covered up. I couldn't really see him. Lucky for him. But he was shaking his fist at us as we were trying to catch him. What a jerk. How about you guys? Dewdrop looked at the other sprites and they all murmured in agreement. Huh, Dahlia said, genuinely perplexed. This story just kept getting stranger and stranger. Look, the pixie dusters have got to fly, 'cause we can now, Dewdrop said. Keep exploring those open roads, Scoots. Dahlia smiled at the sprite and watched as she and the rest of the club took to the skies. Whoever this third person was, it definitely added a new wrinkle to the story. Dahlia decided to pop back into the gas station to see if she could find out anything else from the clerk. I don't know anything, the clerk said, sounding bored. Anything? Dahlia pressed. Anything, the clerk confirmed. It's a minor miracle I'm able to work here. Okay, Dahlia said, writing on her notepad. Then can you at least tell me whether or not there were 3 customers here last night at the same time as the pixie dusters? At the mere mention of the sprites, the clerk said, I don't know anything, repeating his previous statement, but in a considerably more panicked tone. It's okay. The pixie dusters already told me some of the story. You don't need to worry about them. The clerk just stared at her. Anyway, anything else you can tell me? I do recall that there were a few customers here when the pixie dusters were spreading their charm last night, but I couldn't tell you what they looked like. They were pretty well-mannered, you know? Do you have a security camera or anything? Dahlia asked. What? You mean, like, check the footage to see if these customers who you think were here were actually the customers who were actually here? The clerk asked. It took a second for Dahlia to understand exactly what the clerk was trying to say. Yes? She said, still not quite sure. Well, yeah, we do have the security footage, the clerk said. But I'm not supposed to show anyone. My manager would be really annoyed if I did that. Dahlia's heart sank. Then the clerk stepped out from behind the counter and walked toward the back of the store. He motioned for Dahlia to follow. What are you? I kind of feel like annoying my boss today. Oh, he's nice. There, Sedalia exclaimed. That's them. They had fast-forwarded through about an hour of footage before she saw them. Ian and Barley, plain as day, inside the gas station buying snacks. Well, Ian was buying snacks. Barley was just as tiny as Dewdrop had said. In the video, he jumped out of Ian's shirt pocket and carried a key over his head to the bathroom. And in the bathroom corner of the frame was someone dressed in a hooded sweatshirt wearing sunglasses. So this confirms that there were 3 of them, Sedalia thought. But who is Shades? And why wasn't he with them during the dragon battle? She thanked the clerk and raced out the door. But before she took off, she had an idea. She pulled out her phone and dialed a number. Hey, Shrub, this is Sedalia, the reporter you spoke to yesterday. Have you ever heard of the Path of Peril? Shrub laughed. Have I ever heard of the Path of Peril? What is this, Apprentice Hour? It's only one of the most important roads in Quest of Yore. But it's pretty much abandoned now. Why are you asking? I need to get there. Could you tell me how? Ooh, now we're talking, exclaimed Shrub. Sedalia smiled. She knew she could count on Shrub's knowledge and enthusiasm. He gave her directions and wished her luck. Sedalia climbed into the minivan and started the engine. The Path of Peril was waiting. That's the end of chapter 12, guys. Wow, I'm really hoping that she might get Garge and Shrub to go on the adventure with her, but I mean that's just to make it more interesting. But I mean, of course, she could do it by herself. All right, so here's chapter 13, the last chapter for today. Oh, should we even start this one? I think we should. Just if it ends with like a cliffhanger, it ends with a cliffhanger. But I'm just too excited. I have to read it. All right. Sedalia knew that if she was going to head out on something called the Path of Peril, she had to expect a little peril to come her way. While she had yet to experience anything that quite approached peril, she was pretty sure her minivan was. Her mom's pride and joy was clearly not made for such a journey. While they might hum right along on a paved highway, it was another story entirely on this unpaved path. It was rocky, pitted, and just plain awful. The spare tire, which had already been a little wobbly, felt like it was close to falling off completely. Come on, she said, offering words of encouragement. The sun was already getting low, and Sedalia was getting worried. She still had to make her way to Raven's Point, figure out the identity of the mysterious third person, and put together what all of that had to do with Ian, Barley, and the dragon monster. Ian and Barley. What must they be going through, Sedalia wondered. Already being processed at the police station, locked in a jail cell, maybe even solitary confinement? Who knew? And the story that could help set them free. She was no closer to finishing it. In fact, she hadn't even started writing it yet. She'd managed to organize some of her notes the previous night before she went to bed, but that was about it. She was still certainly certain she could get it done in time, though. Even Mrs. Nightdale thought so. But there was a little voice in the back of Sedalia's mind. It was whispering, "Give up. You can't do it. There's no way. Even if you write the story, what will it prove? It won't help Ian and Barley. You will fail, and not only will you not be editor-in-chief, but it will prove you're not a real journalist." Sedalia knew that what the voice wanted her to do, and wanted her to quit. But that was the last thing she was going to do. She had come too far. There was so much on the line. It wasn't just about the story, or even about Barley and Ian. It was about proving something to herself, that she could do it, that she could be a real reporter. There was no going back. As Sedalia drove along the Path of Peril, she did her best to keep the voice at bay, reminding herself of everything she had done so far, of the people she had met, interviewed, and in some cases turned from angry, surly foes into potential friends. She could do anything if she put her mind to it. She saw the drawbridge first, ancient, worn. Parking her mom's minivan, Sedalia opened the door and got out to stand on the rocky ground. She closed the door and walked ahead, getting closer to the bridge. She noticed that the ground ended. "Please tell me that's not what I think it is," she said out loud, to no one in particular. Sedalia slowly walked to the edge of the chasm. She picked a rock up off the ground. It was a geode, the kind that sparkled like it had diamonds in it. Sedalia tossed the rock up in the air a couple of times, catching it in her right hand. Then she threw it into the chasm. It was swallowed by the darkness. It became clear to her that if she was waiting to hear the rock hit the bottom, of the pit, then she was going to be waiting for a long time. "It's a bottomless pit," she said. She could see Raven's Point in the distance. Using the drawbridge to cross this pit appeared to be the only way to reach her goal. Well, at least she has the drawbridge. When Ian and Barley got there was nothing. Let me see. Just the thought of accidentally stumbling and going over into the abyss made the hair on the back of her neck stand on end. She thought about her mom and dad. The sun was going down, it was getting dark, and she hadn't exactly told them what she was doing or where she was going. She'd only left a message on her mom's phone that said, "I'm working on a school project. I'll be home late. Don't worry, I'll grab dinner here. Thanks." So Dahlia had never said where here was, and now here was a bottomless pit along the path of peril. Taking out her phone, she saw that there was no reception. The phone was essentially a brick. "Great," she said. Even if she wanted to, there was no way to call her parents now. The only way out was to go forward, but the old bridge had definitely seen better days. She didn't know if it could support her weight, let alone the van's weight. She wondered if she could jump the chasm with her minivan to get to the other side. It was a ridiculous notion, not least because the chasm was too far wide, and it wasn't like the minivan was made for death-defying stunts. She walked over to the start of the drawbridge. There she stood, gazing into the distance. Then she looked directly at her own 2 feet, and then outward, to the first step on the bridge. She wasn't sure how sturdy it was. "Only one way to find out," Dahlia said, and she was just about to put her foot on the bridge when she heard the voice. "Don't do it. Stay here, it's safe. You might fall. And even if you make it, you don't know what's on the other side." So Dahlia balled her hands into fists, took a deep breath, and put one foot on the bridge. Then she told the voice to take a flying leap. She walked a couple of steps onto the bridge, hearing the cracking boards beneath her feet. She didn't have much evidence that the bridge could support the van, but she had no other choice. Unless she drove across the drawbridge, there'd be no way to continue on the path of peril to find Raven's Point, a Phoenix gem, any of it. She'd run out of time for sure, and she didn't want to be completely exposed in this deserted terrain without any kind of protection. Taking a deep breath, she got back into the minivan, starting the engine, and slowly rolled toward the drawbridge. She decided that she needed to stare straight ahead and keep focused on the other side. Just look forward, Dahlia said to herself as she inched the minivan ahead. She heard the drawbridge creak beneath her vehicle, and she could have sworn that she felt the minivan sinking, like the bridge was giving way. Taking a deep breath, she kept on giving the minivan gas when suddenly she heard a loud snap. Oh, guys, it's a cliffhanger. That's where it ends for chapter 13. Wow, she is very gutsy. I'm not going to look at the next page. I'm just going to bookmark it real quick. So, yeah, guys, she's awesome. She's really awesome. Now, I don't know any other reporters from anything I've watched or seen or read that would actually go to this extent of putting their own life in danger to get a story done. So it's actually really crazy. She is a very dedicated girl, and I really love her conversation with the Manticore, and I respect that the Manticore didn't want to share why the boys went on the adventure. It kind of is their own story to tell, so I really do appreciate the Manticore for having that courtesy for the boys. And she's making a lot of leeway into this report. She's gaining a lot of knowledge, and although she says she doesn't know how to piece it together, I feel like once she kind of really grasps the idea that this is magic, a lot of the things she feels like are unexplainable will be explained. You know, it's just magic. Magic can make someone super tiny, you know. So her being able to accept magic as an actual thing that's occurring, that's something that's been brought back through the ages, I think that's going to really boost this report to go out. And it's going to be even more interesting because imagine if she does put the report and her claim is the magic is real. That's going to cause a lot of stir, you know, in public. So I feel like she's going to really, really add to accepting that magic is back in the society. And that's what's going to lead to a lot of change. And the change that we saw at the end of the book when Barley and Ian leave in the minivan, they actually go flying in it. I feel like that's really going to be that was what she did. She kind of like made things change. But I mean, that's just a prediction. I'm not really sure yet. But I feel like that's what's happening. So I'm really excited to keep reading this. I'm loving it so far. I love that she's met all the characters and more that we read about in Onward, like the Pixie Dusters and, you know, Dewdrop. Like, that's really interesting. Sadly, I know for sure she's not going to meet Ian and Barley's dad, but she can meet everyone else. You know, like Ian and Barley, Laurel. She already met the Manticore, so this is going to be a really interesting book. It already is, but I'm really excited to see what else it has in store. So yeah, guys, if you want to keep reading this with me, make sure you come back on Monday, Wednesdays, and Fridays to see them with me as I'm reading them to you. So that was the Search for the Phoenix Gem and In-Questigation from Disney and Pixar. I will be starting off at chapter 14 on Friday, so don't miss it, guys. All right. So I hope you guys take care. Have a wonderful night and Thursday, and I will see you on Friday. Bye, guys.